So let's talk about array operations and object operations. This sort of questions, type of questions, are likely to happen through an interview process. So I believe it's important to understand how to deal with them. So Ji-Yoon yesterday did something like that. What will that return? False is correct. Why? Because we are creating two arrays, two references to memory, two post codes. Because of that, they are technically speaking different arrays. But what happens if the employer asks you, all right, but how can we compare them? Because from a human point of view, they are the same. They are the same. So how can we compare them? Well, there are different ways to compare arrays. Let me show you, first of all, something very dirty, but sometimes effective. I got an array, number 10. So in JavaScript, you can transform an array into a string using something called json.stringify. Look at the output. It's the array as a string. So, because now we are talking about primitives, strings, what will that return? True or false? True. That's correct. No, if an employer asks you the question, I think it's valid to refer to this technique, but that technique is very risky because of multiple reasons.
You have loads of items in the array as well. Would it still work? It's like 100,000 items.
Yeah.
Still a string.
Yeah, because it transforms into string. That is controversial because
you can also use join in the array, right?
you can use join.
Join transforms the array in a string.
Okay, so you want to do 10.join what? Empty string? Yeah, so that's another alternative, yeah? So once again, there are multiple ways to attack the problem. Yeah, I'm not telling you do this or do that. I'm trying to present you alternatives. So that option suggested by Andrea is also okay. The problem is, Andrea, what happened if I got an array inside of another array? Will this work? So let's have a look. Okay, that may work as well, yeah? Because join, look at what join is doing. It's actually extracting the nested array, yeah? Which is something a bit weird, but it definitely seems to be okay. You see, we got an array of 2 elements, and the second element of the array is another array that is another array inside of it. Yeah, so we could do something like that. One more square bracket, you're right. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, so we can do join. However, I'm not sure about join, but with json.stringify, which is simple yet effective, same as join, the problem with join is it works when talking about arrays. But what happens if you got 2 objects? Yeah? So, for instance, true or false? Did something wrong? What's wrong here? Unexpected token. That's a bit weird. Oh. Hello? What the hell is going on here? Let me try again. A1. All right, I don't know what's going on. Let me create a variable. Let a equals, or let x equals a1, and then y a1. Yeah, it's essentially. Guys, do I need a coffee? What's wrong here? I don't have any. Look, that's bullshit, yeah? Look, unexpected token, triple equal. Do you see any triple equal in my code? Looks like Google Chrome is doing bullshit, yeah? Sometimes, when that happens, run it, and then after running the snippet, Chrome refreshes, yeah, and then it was expected. Anyway, yeah, that returns false, yeah? Because the same problem. You got two objects, two different memory addresses, so they are different. So now, yeah, how do you compare the objects? Can you use join? No, you cannot use join with objects. Okay? So even though I agree with Andrea that to compare arrays, at some point, join could be okay, that strategy doesn't work with objects. However, the other one I present you, I cannot do control set, thank you for nothing, Chrome. The other one I show you, which was, if you remember, JSON.stringify, that works with objects as well. So, first of all, that should return true, as you can see, because we're comparing essentially string array 10 with string array 10. String versus string. String can be compared easily. But what happens if we got an object? Will that work? So what will that return? Have a look to the console. It's the same thing. You see? Is the object itself represented as a string with the quotes surrounding it. So, will that work? True or false? True, correct, because we're comparing two strings. So with JSON.stringify, we can somehow compare arrays and objects. However, even though to me it's fair to mention that technique, this is risky because of multiple reasons. First of all, performance is terrible. So that operation is very costly. So if you need to compare that thingy, fantastic. But if you need to compare something complex, yeah, so from a performance point of view, that's not ideal. I think it's fair to mention that. But also, let me present you a more tricky question. Imagine that I got that, A1, B2. So first of all, true or false? Once again, I cannot compare that directly. So let me create a variable x equals that, and then let y equals that, and then yeah, that's clearly false because we got two objects, blah 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 blah. But then my question is, stringify, yeah? If I do that, true or false?
False.
Why false?
Because I inverted the keys of the object.
That's correct. The strings, if I take them literally, character by character, they are not the same. However, from a human point of view, would you say that the objects are the same? Yes, they are the same. You see the problem. You see the problem. So when talking about arrays, the order matters. Yeah? If I do Peter and Lucy, Peter goes before Lucy. The order is important. Index 0 and index 1. However, when talking about objects, the JavaScript standard doesn't specify any order. The order of the keys doesn't really matter. So in other words, the example above should return, or from a human point of view, we will say that these two objects are literally the same. And that's a limitation of JSON.stringify. Yeah? On top of the performance, it doesn't work. It works more or less okay with arrays, because with arrays, the order matters. I hope you agree with me that these are different arrays. Even if we do the stringify thingy, from a human point of view, the data is not the same. What are the results of the challenge? First Peter, then Lucy is not the same as first Lucy, then Peter. It's not the same. So with JSON.stringify, we got arrays covered, but with objects, not at all, not at all. So JSON.stringify to me, is very fun. When you see developers struggling for hours how to compare two basic arrays, and then you show them that, oh, something very pragmatic. But to me, it doesn't look very professional. I personally think I never use it. So let's talk about how can we compare arrays and objects properly. So first of all, let me create a function, are the same. Yeah? And then I will call are the same with 10 and 10, and not 19, 10. So I hope you agree with me, regardless of what we do, that function should return true. Yeah? If that's the data, function should return true. This is some sort of TDD. Yeah? Sort of TDD, because I'm, mentally speaking, I'm preparing the exercise. That should return true. Okay. So I got array 1 and array 2. So, I don't know. We can solve the problem in many different ways. So, for instance, we can use reduce. So we can do return array1 dot reduce are the same. And now value. I don't know. I'm just playing with the exercise. Yeah? That may not be the best approach. So, what should be the default value? I mean, I'm going to assume that the arrays are the same. So by default, they are the same. So now, can I do return? That's a bit complicated. I want to compare if the first element of the array, of the first array, matches the first element of the second array. So, I got the value. The value will be this 10. But how do I compare, how do I access the equivalent value in the other array?
You can use another argument, index.
Index, that's correct. Thanks to the index, can we do that? Will that work? A company may show you this algorithm, and they may ask you, hey, we are trying to compare two arrays, and this is what we've done so far. So if we run this code, it works. If we run this code, it works. But what about this example? What should that example return? True or false? False. The arrays are different, yeah? And if we run it, it returns false. However, that's okay. You may be confident, hey, this is working as expected. What if we, in reality, let me change the example, that should return true, right? That works. And what if I got that? What should this algorithm return?
False.
It should return false, right? It returns true. So then it's your responsibility as a candidate to that position to figure out why the algorithm doesn't work as expected. Can anyone smell where the problem is?
It's going to go through the first one comparing so that are the same value to true, to false, but then it'll do the second comparison and change that the same value to true.
That's correct. Let's build the iteration matrix. You can do that in a job interview because that will prove, if you cannot spot the problem immediately, at least that will prove you can debug it. Yeah. Or of course, we could add breakpoints if you want. So let's add a breakpoint. Let's run it. So what's the value of are the same? That's the first iteration. What's the default value of are the same? I don't know. True or false, and why?
Default is true to say that one.
That's correct. So by default, are the same, true. What's the first value? Oh, I spoiled it. The first value is 10, yeah? Because we point here. So what's the first index? 0, correct. So what's array 2 on index 0? 15. Is 10 equal to 15? No. So on the next iteration, if we play the snippet again, what's the value of are the same? Why true? What did we return on the previous iteration, Rosal? True or false? Correct. So if we return false, the accumulator on the next iteration is false. If we return Rochelle, the accumulator on the next iteration is Rochelle. Yeah? So are the same, now it's false, which is correct. After the first iteration, our algorithm managed to spot the problem. So far, it's working perfectly. However, what happened on the second iteration? What's the value on the second iteration? That's correct. It's 20. What's the index on the second iteration? That's correct. What's the value associated to the array 2 of index 1? 20. Is 20 equal to 20? Yes. So in other words, the algorithm doesn't care about what happened before. It only cares about the last iteration. As far as the last two numbers are the same, it will return true, which is bullshit, obviously. Yeah, that's not what we want. So how we fix that? Well, we could do something quite silly. Look at my chance. If the previous values were the same, then continue evaluating the new iterations. As soon as any previous iteration returns false, what false and something returns? False and hello. What does it return? Correct, false. Yeah? So that means that as soon as the value becomes falsy, it will remain falsy forever, which is what we want. So let's run it again. So what's the first value of are the same? True, correct. What's the first value? 10, correct. What's the first index? 0, correct. So what's the first value on the second array? What's the value of the second array on index 0? 15. Is 10 equal to 15? No. So we return what? False. And we go to iteration number 2. So what's the new value of are the same? It's false because that's what we just returned. So now it doesn't care. The algorithm will continue running until the end of the array, but it doesn't really care. Yeah? Now the value will remain falsy forever. And that's why, as hopefully you can see in a minute, let me remove the breakpoint. Now the algorithm works as expected, somehow. Yeah? So that's looking much better. However, can anybody see any problem? I can show you in a scenario where this won't work as expected.
Nesting arrays?
Okay, I'm not talking, I know someone was going to refer on nesting. I don't want to talk about nesting. On Monday, our friend Octavian will talk about recursion. So I think it would be great, Octavian, if you could solve one of the questions on the expert of JavaScript on recursion topic. Yeah, because thanks to recursion, we can deal with nested complex structure. I don't want to talk about complex structure. I want to have a flat list of numbers. So just having a flat list of numbers, can anyone see how can we easily break this algorithm? All right, let me present you a problem. What will this function return? True or false? What should it return, first of all? False, because these two arrays are different. It returns false. That's correct. So that works fine. However, let's do it on the other way around. Wait a minute. No, sorry, that's false. Sorry. Guys, I need a coffee. That's false because I was still 15, yeah? So I was false before. So let me bring it back to true. 10 and 20. Yeah? That should return what? True, correct. And now, let's do that. What should this execution return? False. That should return false. Boom. It's broken. Our algorithm still believes these two arrays are equivalent. Can anybody give me an explanation why this happens?
Is it because after the second iteration, as far as the function's concerned, is done?
That's correct.
And then it tries to compare.
Based on this algorithm, how many iterations will this algorithm run? 2. So it will compare the first here with the first there. The second here with the second there. And that's it. It will ignore everything else beyond the second element. You may be thinking, can we change that? Well, what will, you see, I've swapped array 1 with array 2. What will the algorithm return now? Now it will return false, that's correct. But I hope you agree with me that as soon as we change it on the other way around, then we break it again, because now the algorithm should return false because the arrays are clearly different. However, boom. Yeah? So we need something else. So what else do we need? Well, let me present you something. What they will do is, first of all, compare the length of the arrays. If the arrays have different length, different size, they are different. Only if they have the same number of elements, they could be the same or not. But if they got different number of elements, they are radically different. So, I mean, easy peasy. Look, we can, let me add some parentheses. Remember, guys, look after readability, yeah, all these sort of things. And then I can do array1.length equal array2.length, and so first of all, check if the size of the arrays is the same. If the size is the same, then okay, fair enough. Go one after the other, yeah? But if the size is different, the arrays are not the same. I think this is very smart from a... Actually, can we do it on the other way around? Can we do it afterwards? So first of all, compare them all, and then check the size of the arrays. Andrea is right. That's equivalent. That's the same. Yeah, that's the same. However, from a performance point of view, what is it better? To loop through all the elements and then compare the size, or compare the size and then loop through all the elements? Correct. This operation is much cheaper than this one. It's just comparing 4 versus 3, comparing 2 numbers. However, going through all the elements could be expensive, potentially. You got 1 million elements on each array, that could be costly. So definitely, first of all, run the cheaper operation first, which in this particular case is compare the size. And then only if they got the same size, then go through all the iterations. So, question for you. Breakpoints hell again. Imagine that I can... It's not going to work. Anyways, let me add a console log. So I got the console log here. How many times will that console log be printed? Alex?
0.
Who else? Anybody disagree on that? Guys, let me tell you a quick advice. Not answering questions won't give you a job. Yeah? So I prefer someone who participates, even if he or she fails, than someone who is hiding under the table. Yeah? So, yeah, just a friendly reminder. You're right, guys. that won't run at all. And the reason why it won't run is because that will return falsy, and then, so whatever comes next won't be even evaluated. What if I do something like that? How many times? Two questions. How many times will the console log be printed? And then on top of that, what will this algorithm return? True and false. You're right. You're right. 3 times, because the condition is satisfied, so then it's time to check the details. Yeah? So definitely we go until the end of the array. It returns false, because thanks to that condition, once it becomes falsy, which is actually on the last iteration, it remains falsy forever. Any questions? No? Cool. So I hope, guys, you practice with that. If not, that's fine. You'll remember me on your next job interview. So this is about arrays, but how can we compare objects? It's slightly more complicated, maybe? I don't know. So I showed you an example before, yeah? Let me create the function again. Are the same. So I'm going pretty much to follow the same steps. But now I would like to pass first of all, let's keep it easy, yeah? So A1 and A1. What should this algorithm return eventually? True, right? From a human point of view, the objects are clearly the same. So then I got here object 1 and object 2. Let me follow a similar pattern, yeah? We should try to normalize our algorithms. Because the problems are similar, comparing arrays to comparing objects, I would like to follow a similar approach. So, look at my technique. I would like to transform this object 1 and object 2 into arrays, or at least object 1 into an array, and then I will iterate over all the key values on the array. And I will check if these key values are available on the second one somehow. So I'll do object.keys. Do you remember object.keys? What will object.keys will return on object 1? An array of keys. A and A? Like that? How many A's? 27? Ooh.
Yes, 1.
So why 2, Anita?
Oh, it's just object 1. Okay, it's 1.
Only 1, yeah? So I got the keys, and then I will use reduce again. I like reduce, yeah? Dot reduce. So you see, it's very similar to what we've done before. Are the same. Tell me the name of the second argument. Key. I like that, because if we do object.keys, we want to access each individual key. Let's leave it like that for now. What's the default value of are the same accumulator? True, that's correct. By default, I'm going to assume that the objects are the same. So the objects will be the same unless I find a problem. So, return, to keep it simple for now, I want to access, first of all, the value associated to the first key. What's the value associated to the first key? Value? You don't get any value, that will throw an error.
1.
1. Yeah, I know. Okay, obviously it's 1. But yeah, but how do? Yeah, okay, it's 1. But how do I access that number? Object 1 square bracket key. That's correct. We dynamically get the value associated to the first key. Equals to what? Object 2 dot key. Come on, Florian, you have an interview today, right? Square bracket key, yeah? Okay. Will it work in this particular scenario? Let's have a look. Yeah. At least in this use case, it works fine. So let's try to break it. Yeah, let's try to break it. So I guess you agree with me, we can easily break this algorithm. So first of all, what should that return? True or false?
False.
Will it work?
No. Yes.
Yes, no, yes or no, right, Andrea?
Return false.
We agree on that. So why it returns false?
Because it compares the key B
Mhm.
value 2
Mhm.
with the key of object 2 that is undefined.
Correct. In the second iteration, we will be comparing 2 against what? Undefined, because we don't have the B key on the second object. So that should be okay, right? That's okay. Brilliant. Works as expected. So let's add the second key. Will it work? That should return true. The objects are literally the same. And that still works. So cool, fantastic. We're doing something great. And what if I change the first A value to 40? What should this algorithm return? True or false? False. Will it work as expected? No. Alex is right. Still returns true. Why? Anyone apart from Alex can tell me why this doesn't work as expected?
Because of the initial value.
Because of the initial value. No, that's not the reason. The initial value is not the problem.
Considering the last keys if they're true or false.
Correct. That's literally the same problem we got before. On the first comparison, let's set a breakpoint, guys. What's the first value here? What's the first element of the comparison? 40.
False.
Is 40 equal to 1? No, no problem at all. So that will return what? False, yeah? So if I now hover are the same, it's false. However, what's the second element here? 2 versus what? Is 2 equal 2?
Yep.
So we are overriding the accumulator. That's why it returns false. Sorry, it returns true, which is not correct. So how do we solve the problem?
Can we not say the break rather than using the same thing we did earlier? Is there another
You want to add a break? That's very aggressive. No, I don't want to add any break. No.
Same for on the same for on one for
Here? Like that? And, that's correct, eh? They should be the same and, on the previous iteration should be the same and, it should be the same on the current one as well, yeah? So, that should return false. Will it work?
Yeah.
We don't invoke the function. That's very exotic. What do you mean?
Are the same.
No. So Anita is pointing. Anita is wrong, but I like this. I like her argument. We did something controversial here. Look, I created a variable with the same name as the function. It works. Do you remember when we talked about scopes, block scope, function scope? It works because here we are shadowing. We are creating a new variable with the same name as that function. But because in this function scope, the closest declaration is the variable, we are using the variable instead of the function. That's why it actually works. But I agree with you, Anita, that's controversial. That's controversial. Because imagine that because of whatever reason, we want to call that function again. That won't work. We've lost access to that function here. Based on that, we should rename that variable. We should rename the variable to something different, like, I don't know, same, equals, I don't know, yeah? Something like that. All right, so that should return false, and that actually returns false. Because once the same flag becomes falsy, and that will happen straight after the first iteration, it will remain falsy forever. So what if, can we break it? Can you see any scenario where this won't work as expected?
You don't have a key value pair in the break.
Where? Russell?
Like in the first object, if we had C and we had a 3, would it break it?
Well, so okay, that's controversial, Russell. So Russell believes that first of all that should return false, yeah, because the objects are clearly different. So according to Russell, this algorithm will return true. Do you agree on that?
I don't know. People great.
They are wrong
If you
out
put-
there.
If you put the C4 on object 2,
Because it's stopping at the second one now.
Correct.
It's not going to evaluate C4 at all.
Correct. So you, the idea was right. So you clearly got the idea, Roselle. So Roselle has tried to stress my algorithm. However, she didn't hit it hard enough. Yeah, because in this particular use case scenario, the algorithm is smart enough to retaliate, to defend itself. Yeah, you know, when Esteban is hitting the ball on table tennis and you defend yourself and you return the ball, and Esteban keeps hitting the ball and you keep returning. Yeah, so Esteban didn't hit the ball hard enough here. However, if Esteban gets in super warrior mode and moves the variable to the right hand side, now he's making extra pressure. Because I hope you agree with me that should return false. The objects are clearly different. However, boom, we break it. So the algorithm doesn't work as expected. Yeah? So then what? How do we solve the problem?
you do the same with object keys, object 1.
Correct. It's the same thing. You remember with arrays, we first of all compare the length of the arrays. Can we compare the length of the keys? Yeah, why not? So we could do something like that. If both objects have the same length in terms of number of keys, fair enough, then check the details. If not, they are clearly different. And that's a good example. So if we run this code, that should return false, as you can see. Yeah? So even though that's correct, if you really want to nail a job interview, you should try to avoid any sort of code duplication. As you can probably notice, I'm running this operation twice. You see, I'm getting the keys twice. From a performance point of view, that's not the most efficient thing you can do because you are triggering the same action twice. So let's create a variable. Object1 keys equals, and likewise for consistency reasons, object2 keys so now, as you can see, I'm not duplicating any code at all. So that looks slightly more elegant. You can argue, yeah, fair enough, if we got a small number of elements from a performance point of view, it's not a big deal. But eventually trying to make sure that we are able to scale our app, blah, 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 all this type of performance messages. Everyone loves that. Everyone loves that. And I'll tell you something. If you talk to a developer, they will love to deal with performance. If you talk to a business, even if you have no idea what the hell you are doing, they love to hear words performance, scalability, yeah? Keep few keywords, performance, scalability, user experience, responsive, there is a bunch of 5-6 words and keep vomiting them because business will love them. User-friendly, exactly. Engagement, mobile first, blah. Even if you're talking about table tennis, they love to sounds like music on their ears, yeah? Cool, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the way you can deal with that. We unfortunately are out of time. Octavian, it will be fantastic, it will be absolutely fabulous if on Monday you present a similar example. I want you on Monday to solve the following problem. So today we've learned how to solve this problem. Yep, we've learned that today. And that technique is perfect if you deal with basic data structure, basic arrays, flat arrays, an array of numbers, an array of strings, fine. However, I want you, Octavian, to solve this problem. Having a nested array. What we've done today is not valid to solve this problem, because at some point we will be comparing array 2 versus array 2. What will that return? So, first of all, again, from a human point of view, what should that algorithm return? True, the arrays are the same. However, the algorithm we created today, not sure if I can bring it back. Probably not. No, too optimistic. So the algorithm we've done today, you can try by yourself using the tools, won't solve the problem. Why? Because 1 as a number versus 1 as a number will work okay. However, 2 as an array versus 2 as an array, what will that return? False, because they are 2 references to memory. So we need to do something different. Octavian, please prepare that for Monday. Yeah? If you think that's super easy, you can do the same thing with objects, because with objects, it's going to be the same thing. Yeah? So that is okay. However, even though from a human point of view, I hope you agree with me, the objects are the same, in reality, what we've done today is not strong enough. It doesn't have enough power to control this use case scenario. Yeah? So what Octavian is going to present on Monday, the technique is the same for arrays and objects. Probably you will run out of time. So I'm not asking you to go very deep on objects. But I think that at least with arrays, it would be nice to deal with it. Yeah? Anything else, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah, go for
from
it.
the human point of view, if you invert the keys of an object, you compare it.
That's a good question. So, all right, sorry, I need to bring that back. So, if you remember before, we were comparing, we were doing something like that, yeah? So, object1.keys, object1.keys, reduce, blah, 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 blah. All right, so let me check that works. First of all, that returns false because the objects are clearly different, and then that returns true. So what happened if we change the order? From a human point of view, are these objects the same or not? Yes, they are, because as I told you before, when talking about objects, the order of the keys doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. An object is an unsorted list of key value pairs. As far as a key value pair on the left-hand side is the same as on the right-hand side, that's fantastic. Yeah? And now the question is our algorithm ready for this scenario? Yes. So definitely we are good on that. Yeah? Anything else? No? All right, guys. That was it. Thank you for...